Oh man. All right. Before we get started, folks, I've got to show you something, and don't worry, it is on topic for tonight. Um, as some folks have seen, I posted a sorry, too far away. My apologies. As some folks have seen, I posted a short video today of roasting a chicken in a cast iron bun pan, and man, did that turn out great. That is really something I'd like to highly recommend folks give it a try if you have yourself a cast iron bun pan. However, the thing that's just shocked me a few minutes ago is that um, I'm looking at this on my phone, and YouTube has once again generated some AI replies to the comments there. I'm not even sure if you can see these on the phone or not, but I am amazed at how lifelike these comments sound. And I really want to show you a couple of these. Like one here who mentions, if you put a little bit of baking powder on it, you get an extra crispy skin. And the replies here, I hope you can see this, says, that is an interesting idea. And here is another one that really, again, these are AI generated. I didn't write these. It's actually not the pH level, but the baking soda breaks down the proteins in the skin, which all, et cetera, et cetera. Sheesh, boy. And here's another one here. I think the bundt pan helps to cook the chicken more evenly. I'm really hoping you can see some of these comments here. Yeah, I mean, it's really almost scary how realistic these AI generated things are here. I wonder if there's an option that will allow you to, yeah, that will require that Google flag the AI generated comments, just so that you know that I didn't write them myself. But yeah, anyway, if you didn't mind, I wanted to take a moment, I guess, to show you that. All right. Anyway, hi there. Welcome everybody once again to Cast Iron Wednesday, a tradition that a lot of YouTube cooking channels have been doing on Wednesdays, where of course we do a cast iron video. Not necessarily something like this, but this is of course just one of quite a few channels that have been doing a cast iron video on Wednesdays, because it's a lot of fun and it really gives us something to look forward to. I mean, that's why I'm I especially look forward to the first Wednesday of each month now here on this channel, because, well, it's time once again for a Q&A session where you get to ask me anything. Well, just about anything anyway. And we will see how well this hour or hour and a half or so progresses. But as always, though, I would indeed like to thank everybody who's been kind enough to kind enough to show up here on this channel tonight. And so I can only say hello to everybody. Hello, Valley S. I think I saw you last week. I'm not sure, or if this is your first time at this channel or not. And Greg Hart, hello, and Pat Z, and Gunter45, which I think I haven't seen in a while. Hello, Clico and Rich Qualls and Greg Hart. How did that chocolate cake ever taste? Oh, the cake turned out fantastic as far as the taste concerned. Anyway, unfortunately, it's still stuck in the pan. I think I made a comment about that. In that it seems like it's not just me, but just about every single video I've seen of people making that eggless chocolate cake. In every single case, the cake is simply stuck in the pan. So all I can say is that if you want to have a cake that doesn't stick, well, lay down parchment paper first before you put the batter in. But it's worth it, though. I mean, besides the fact that it's inexpensive and doesn't use eggs, the cake tastes great. And I know there are some other people here who have made that wacky cake. And yeah, that is a really, really good tasting cake. So I would definitely say thumbs up, or way up even, for the taste of that cake. And hello as well to Jim Glatzhar. I was in law school practicing lawyers accused us of using commercially available summaries of cases. It wasn't true then. Maybe it is now. Yeah. AI, right? I know how things have changed. Even back, I'm remembering as well back in high school and even college when, yeah, I had to do research for my reports. And yeah, no, believe me, things like the internet certainly were not available on a wide scale basis back then. Well, yes, the best skillets to pick up are the ones that are free. Well, yeah, it is true that for quite a few of us, yeah, an opportunity could very well come up where you could end up with a free cast iron skillet, and there are many ways to do that. You could have a friend come and give you a present. Hi, I know you like cast iron, so I got you a cast iron present, a cast iron skillet. And that's usually how you end up with, like, say, an Asian made cast iron pan from Walmart. And of course, if that were to happen to me, it actually did happen to me several years ago when my brothers gave me cast iron for Christmas, which they don't do anymore. But yeah, I mean, believe me, I, for one, would be polite and thankful regardless of what kind of cast iron pan they gave me. So I mean, and besides, we've discussed the differences between Asian cast iron and American made cast iron here on this channel before, but it's been a while. Maybe I should make that a topic of discussion for a future video, perhaps, where we can actually go into that topic at some point. But nonetheless, though, I mean, the point is that Asian made cast iron is still good for cooking in the kitchen. And people actually, especially these days, they do get Asian made cast iron, especially to keep as disposable cast iron for when they go camping or going on trips, or in other instances where you could very well be at risk of having your stuff damaged or stolen or lost or who knows what. I mean that's for that reason. I certainly would not want to take one of my Griswold pans out on a camping trip, not especially when I do have other options available. And yes, indeed, get some books on cast iron around $35 each. Yeah, yeah, the books are really good for the hardcore, for the hardcore people. That's certainly true. Although, really, it's like the internet is a really good education as well, as long as you don't mind that there are about 5,000 answers to every on the internet for every question that's asked here, and probably about two-thirds of those will disagree with each other. So, yeah, in fact, what I'm saying tonight here, I mean, while I do hope I can give good advice when I talk about my cast iron collection or the like, I mean, I know that I am indeed subject to making mistakes and maybe even giving incorrect information. And yeah, when it comes to giving incorrect information on the internet, oh boy, you can bet that there are some people who are really going to go out of their way to point out the big differences. And how dare you say things like that Red Mountain skillet was actually made in the 1940s, when those markings obviously show it was made in the early Century Series era. Yeah, you get the idea. Hello, Louis J. Cast Iron Cooking. We're good, just busy with new activities with kiddos, swims, soccer games, and so much more. Oh, yeah, nothing wrong with that, that's for sure. And Cynthia Wesley, good for you. And hello, Ronald Coward. I saw it on the internet. It has to be true. Oh, tell me about it. In fact, I think I mentioned something that a little discussion I had recently with a lodge representative in the cast iron communities, who it seems that yeah, the discussion actually has to do with one particular pan from Lodge Cast Iron that is actually not from Lodge Cast Iron. And I think I better bring it out. It is right over here. Ah, the salmon pan. Here, let me get a. Oh, keep doing that. Here, let me get a close up of this one. I'm sure folks have seen this, and some folks might be lucky enough to own this as well. The very strange salmon baking pan, which was actually made by Birmingham Stove and Range, like only during maybe the last year or two of their production before they shut down for good. So, however, several years ago, there were comments made on the internet, on Facebook, by one or two representatives of Lodge Cast Iron, claim or stating, not claiming, stating that Lodge had actually manufactured the salmon pan. But however, that was several years ago, and further research and inquiry has determined that that was actually not the case. Namely, that this was indeed made by BSNR. However, when BSNR went bankrupt, they did pass on several of their designs to Lodge, and Lodge does actually have the pattern for this in their archive vaults, but they have never actually made this pan. And it was a Lodge representative who made that incorrect statement. So that's just how it goes. I mean, everybody can make an incorrect statement once in a while. And I'm not going to come down on anyone from, from Lodge for actually doing that. How dare you tell us something that isn't the truth? No, please. It was just a comment on on a Facebook discussion or something like that. It's not like an official policy memo from Lodge Cast Iron. So I'm not worried about it. And that likewise as well, I do encourage folks to please, if I do provide incorrect information, please point it out to me. That's the thing, is that especially these days, as you know, there are some rather nasty rivalries taking place in the cast iron community here on the internet, it seems like, and they only seem to have gotten worse lately. And I have indeed been accused of spreading misinformation on my website and on my YouTube channel, because it seems some of the information I made, it may not be 100% accurate. To which point I say, I encourage you, please correct any mistakes that I make. I am very much open to criticism, and I would indeed like to make sure that the information that I present is up to date. The thing is, I can only think of maybe one or two instances in the past several years where a nice person on one of those Facebook groups actually did point out something that I was doing incorrect, and he made it, and he actually allowed me to correct it. Most of the time, it's just accusations and drama and things that I do not want to get into because it's not worth it. It's cast iron. It's not brain surgery. It's not, it's not heart surgery. It's not politics. It's not religion. It's cast iron. So, I'd love to present correct information. And if I get something wrong from time to time, please point it out. It's not the end of the world, and I'm not going to have a heart attack from it. Okay, I've said enough about that little subject. Ugh. Let's see if we can talk about something fun, shall we? Here, I'll get a piece and worry the socks off. We'll put out to maybe come up with something. Yeah. Okay. I read a lot last month when I acquired my salmon pan. Well, congratulations on getting one, Cynthia. I'm really glad to hear that. I don't listen to armchair experts. Well, then why are you here, Corey Clark? Because I guess people consider me to be an armchair expert. Nonetheless, okay. All right. Double your money. Any new cast iron? Well, it's winter and pickings are very slow, Louis J. Although just about a week or so ago at the flea market, I did indeed make a score. Namely, and it's in the lie tank right now, so I can't bring it out, but I can actually bring out its little cousin. 1 second. Here it is. Yeah, this is the one. It was at Brimfield where I scored for $10, and this was a few. Keep doing that. This was a few years ago. I scored a Wapak sad iron, and this is a 5. So I'm presuming this is like a 5-pound sad iron. And I've been proud to use this in several of my videos. Well, just about a week or so ago at the flea market, I found a 6 Wapak sad iron, but it's in the lie tank right now, so I can't show it in person. Basically, it's a little bit heavier and it has a 6 on it. Also, I think it's in somewhat better condition because you can see this one here actually does have some pitting on the surface. And if I remember right, the number six actually may very well be in some better condition. So I'm definitely looking forward to seasoning that one when it comes out of the tank. So I mean that was something I couldn't pass up. um, Now that I have two Wapak Sat irons, I don't know. Maybe I might find an excuse to give away or trade this one. Well, the National Cornbread Festival is coming up. Maybe I'll take this with me. Who knows? Okay. And from there, great. Here's another thing I got put down for now. Ugh, that's the thing about cast iron. It's heavy. Radagast. I was told my BSR number 7 is an early century skillet, but I'm calling it a Red Mountain because it's mine, and I'll call it whatever I want. Oh yes, that little discussion once again. The problem with that particular argument, namely about whether or not, let me pull one out right now, about whether or not this particular pan is a BSR Red Mountain series pan or a Century series pan. And yes, I call it a Red Mountain as well. The whole reason why this disagreement is all coming up is because it's based on estimates. The thing is that generally it's pretty much been determined that BSR started out making their pans with the handwritten logos on and size numbers on them, and they seem to have started that out in like maybe about the 1920s or so. The disagreement comes of how long BSR was producing their handwritten pans, because it seems that there are some folks here on the internet now who claim that BSR was making those handwritten pans as up until as late as 1950 or the early 1950s. And supposedly they then switched over to the more professional looking design of their pans, like that one that I just held in their hand. And supposedly that was at the same time they renamed their entire line to Century Cookware. And so supposedly that particular number 3 pan is a Century Series pan and not a Red Mountain. Except that I disagree with that. And I'm not the only one. A lot of people disagree with that, especially on the Facebook group for BSR and Lodge collectors. There have indeed been some friendships broken over that silly little argument. And yet, the reason why I disagree is because, as I said, we are basing this on estimates. Namely, that there has not been any hard evidence found yet that actually determines the year that BSR upgraded their production facility to the more professional looking design of their pans. This was before the so-called, before the DISA automated manufacturing that they put into place in 1966. We're talking about the period before 1966. This was, in fact, an automated production, not as fancy and not as professional as the DISA, but it still there was a lot of automation involved. And they call the research we understand is they call this the jolt and squeeze method of producing cast iron pans, because a lot of it was done by hand, but there was indeed some automation. Now, the reason why they call it jolt and squeeze is because this was done in two parts. One is they actually had to put together a mold, a mold, and fill it with sand and shape it according to the pattern, or they use the pattern actually more like to shape it. And then they poured the molten iron into the mold. At which point, then there was a press that actually pressed down on that mold, really to put it under a great amount of pressure, and this would do things to it, like for instance, get rid of air bubbles and most other deformities. Not all. I mean, as we know, they can. I mean, manufacturing defects did still occur, But in general, that actually produced a pretty solid and nice looking pan. At which point, then, once that was done, they actually had to break that mold open, literally shock it open and scat and break the mold into pieces and everything to get to get the actual piece of cast iron, the cast iron pan, for instance, out of that mold. And that was why they called it jolt and squeeze. And I didn't know that until only like maybe within the last year or two, largely because of the research on the BSR group. Now the thing is that as I said, we don't know yet the actual or approximate year that BSR upgraded their production to this jolt and squeeze automated production. As I mentioned, some folks seem to think it took place as late as 1950. On the other hand, there have been a lot of clues and other evidence posted largely through research, through magazines and catalogs and like that suggest that upgrade to the Jolt and Squeeze production took place earlier than 1950. It could very well have taken place in the 1940s. Arguably, we don't know, but arguably, it could have been as early as the late 1930s. Because the understanding is, of course, that BSNR was a big company. They were one of the largest producers of cast iron, pretty much in the entire country. So you figure that a big producer like that certainly would not wait like 20 or 30 years after production started before upgrading to something like the that more modern, the jolt and squeeze, the automated production to help boost their capacity and of a production. I've read comments from some folks who suggest that maybe it happened during World War II, you know, the war effort, when there was a lot of incentive and a lot of investment from the government as well, you know, but pouring money into American manufacturing to produce jobs as well as to produce materials for the war effort. So maybe that happened during the 1940s. Maybe it might have even happened during the 1930s as the country was struggling to recover from the Great Depression. You know, just like build up the business and help create jobs and help just that, help make the economy better. Maybe. We don't have any actual evidence of that. But regardless of that, that means there is the possibility that BSNR was producing these kind of cast iron skillets here as early as, again, the 1940s or maybe the 1930s. So that's several years before they switched over to the Century Cookware series. So that's why I'm with the crowd that disagrees with the idea that these are all early century. I tend to describe this now as a Red Mountain, possibly early century, because this could have been made as much as 10 to 15 years before the switch over to the Century Cookware line. And that's a long winded explanation for something as silly as a marking on a cast iron pan. And that's what they call cast ironitis. So, yeah. That's the story of the arguments taking place on the internet about this because we don't have any evidence to back up our claims. So we can only go with estimates. All right. We're missing our other Val. Okay, I've been talking on and on and on. I do hope I haven't missed anything here, and I apologize for that. I saw something about Volrath. I was trying to shake you whole. There is much more if you guys would like. I'll keep listing, but I don't think that'll ever happen in my. Oh, somebody lives in Alaska. Well, you never know. And besides, there's always eBay these days. I got hammered when I turned 18. The list goes on. I got a field number 12 skillet, number 14 field double-sided or double-handled field skillet. Wow, Jacob Beamier, I guess, or Beamler. I can't pronounce it right. You really like field cast iron. Well, again, congratulations. glad you've been able to acquire that many pieces there. So yeah, nobody believed BSR had hammered. Well, it's been debunked. Yes, a couple of very rare hammered BSR pieces have been discovered. And once again, we don't know what happened. I mean, maybe they might have been like a proof of concept thing. Maybe they tried experimenting and they produced a few pans with a hammered design. We don't know, but there are definitely a very few of them out there. So that means yes, they did actually make hammered pans. They're just very, very rare. So who knows? Okay, good. I didn't accidentally hit the pause button or mute button, I should say. I love to see you make fried chicken in a carbon wok and hear your comparison to the cast iron wok. That would be interesting. I'd have to get a carbon wok, and the thing is that I don't know how often I would use it because I love using my cast iron wok. Someone please tell Corey there's not a giveaway on Badgers Live. I was only joking with him about the Wapak Indian head. Okay, Corey, there is not a giveaway on Badgers Live. Okay? Yeah, the Century Red Mountain discussion is fascinating to me. Well, thank you very much, JR Finishes. And I think it's fascinating too. I mean, of course, these are the type of details, that hobbyists or geeks, if you prefer, that we all like to argue about and have discussions about. Just like comic book geeks talking about the old days of Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby and Kurt Swan and all that. Or coin collectors for that matter, researching the history of the 1933 Double Eagle and the 1804 silver dollar. And I think I've mentioned that, Lodge Cast Iron has made a couple of cast iron pans with the image of an American coin on it. I would love a cast iron pan with the image of the 1804 silver dollar. All right. Nah. Okay. Yeah, I love my old cast iron no matter the date made. There is that too, Amber, and I certainly agree. Question: your preference of smooth or rough bottomed skillet? The debate seems to continue. When you're saying bottom, do you mean the cooking surface or the rest of it, like maybe underneath? You're talking about the cooking surface. Okay. All right. Here's the thing. Yes, the smooth surface is actually better, but only very slightly. Because I mean, I enjoy my modern day Lodge cast iron skillets, and I have quite a few of them in my collection here. I have never ground down a Lodge cast iron pan when I've used it. I mean, even the so-called rough ones. Let me bring one out for you, shall we? Here is the 2015 Great Seal or American Seal skillet, which most definitely had a smooth and rough surface when it was first given to me as a present. Although I have been cooking with it when I can, and that has certainly helped to smooth it out and fill it with additional seasoning. But it's a modern day Lodge skillet, and it definitely has the rough look and feel of a modern day Lodge. And let me see. I was using a modern day Lodge Dutch oven when I first started collecting cast iron. In fact, I think I still have it. I also had a 4-quart Bayou Classic Asian made cast iron Dutch oven. And boy, when you want to talk about a rough surface, Bayou Classic certainly is one of them. It's Asian made, but I loved it. And in fact, as I mentioned, I still have my 16-quart, 4-gallon Bayou Classic Dutch oven, and I love it. And they have rough surfaces, and I've not had any problem at all using them. Then at Brimfield, I might have even been my very first trip to Brimfield. I managed to score, maybe the second, a Griswold Dutch oven. And I found it for $10 because it was at the bottom of a rusty pile of junk. that's way over there in the corner. And it took quite a while and quite a bit of effort to restore that rusty Griswold to good condition, but I did it. And the very first time I cooked in that Griswold Dutch oven, and my spatula slid over the glass smooth surface of that Griswold Dutch oven, I was astounded. It felt great. That's really the big thing, I think, about the smooth versus rough. Smooth feels great. It feels wonderful to use a smooth cast iron skillet. And yes, I will say that I think the smooth surface probably does give a maybe just a little bit more of a non-stick surface, for things like your eggs and all the rest of that. However, as I said, it's only a really small difference. I have many times made eggs and scrambled eggs and everything in my modern day lodge skillets, and I love using them. But I think it's really the look and the feel of the smooth skillets that makes them just so attractive. Probably more than really just about that. Those are probably, I think, the biggest reasons that they say that. And there are some people who get into arguments over vintage cast iron versus modern cast iron for precisely that reason. And I will disagree there because I love using modern day cast iron too. Um, excuse me. Couple of comments. One is I'm fortunate enough to have the first generation of the Finex cast iron pan, which I've had for 10 years, and even the Stargazer skillet, which I've had for, I think, like about going on 7 years now. So, or maybe 6. Either way, these were among their first generation when they actually made them with glass smooth surfaces, including the Stargazer skillet. Yes. And yeah, these things have been indeed a joy to use, and I really enjoy using them. However, these things have been a real pain in the pita bread to season. I mean, other folks who have been trying to season modern day cast iron, the newer luxury cast iron that is, will tell you the same thing. That they just have had trouble holding on to their seasoning. And that actually was caused a lot of complaints, to the point where, as far as I know, all of the modern day manufacturers, maybe not Butterpat or Yeti, but just about all of the modern day cast iron manufacturers no longer make cast iron skillets with a glass smooth surface. And I found that out when Louis J here sent me a field skillet as a present. Oops, upside down. Sent me a field skillet as a present. And yeah, boy, this thing looks nice too. And as you can see, I'm really glad to have this. Yeah, interestingly enough, Louis J, is that you also sent me a favorite skillet. And I gave the favorite skillet away as a present to my girlfriend. So yeah. Anyway, but the thing is that this field skillet here does not have a glass smooth surface. It has very fine grooves on it, like a vinyl record album. So it is actually not glass smooth. I mean, it certainly looks like it's glass smooth, and again, it cooks great. So, from my understanding is Stargazer and Finex have done the same thing too. They are putting very what's a good word, I guess? Grooved surfaces, I guess, on their cast iron for precisely that same reason. Especially so that they hold seasoning more than anything else. I mean, because again, they still cook great. So yeah, the smooth versus rough thing is one of those arguments that's going to keep on going, because there are a lot of hardcore fans in both camps, and there are genuine reasons for both camps. As I said, I mean, smooth cast iron feels great. I'm really glad to have some smooth cast iron pieces. And that includes my vintage BSR skillets, for instance. But on the other hand, I also love using my modern day Lodge cast irons with their rough surface. Um, so, it, excuse me, if you want my opinion, I guess that's my opinion. I think I'll sum it down in a few words. Don't grind down your Lodge cast iron. There's no reason for it. It will still cook just great. And besides, when they talk about grinding down Lodge cast iron, they always talk about the skillets. How come nobody talks about grinding down a Lodge bunt pan, for instance? All right. Looks like the season is building up well. Well, I'm doing my best, Louis J. That's the best I can say there. So, I mean, I do my best to rotate through my collection. I've got my collection is big enough that it's hard to rotate through them, but I am doing as best as I can. Puritan was made for Sears. Yes, it was. My understanding is that both Griswold and Favorite made the Puritan skillets for Sears. I have limited use with the stuff I've got, but it's pretty heavy as far as field goes. Um, Field, I mean, I've always felt that with the design of their pans, I'm thinking that Field is probably making the strongest effort of all the modern day cast irons to be the modern day Griswold. Well, here's hoping they succeed. It's fun to have an assortment. It's great to have the perfect cooking vessel for all needs. Yes, indeed. Until you run into what they call first world problems. You know, it's like, gee, I got myself a steak. Which cast iron pan am I going to use for that steak? Although, as it turns out, from using my collection, if I'm going to sear myself a steak, I will probably reach for the Finex. There we go again, for the Finex cast iron skillet here, simply because this thing is incredibly heavy and thick. This thing is really, really heavy, and that means it holds on to heat excellent. And really, I would really want to sear a steak in this probably before any other cast iron pan. Oh, and by the way, as I mentioned, I've had this Finex skillet for 10 years now. So yeah, it took a good couple of years or so before I was able to get some decent seasoning on this Finex skillet. But man, I certainly like the results. So I think really about the best thing I could say again with all of the with any smooth cast iron skillet is have patience and keep using it, and you will indeed get some good seasoning on that pan. Now let me put this one back. Oh, damn it. At this rate, I'm going to end up cracking one of my skillets here on live. Okay, cannot see either of them, and my cats don't know how to fix it. Buffering. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cynthia. Is your fancy handle skillet really light, or does it have some heft to it? I have one very light and the other very heavy. My fancy handle skillet is definitely light. It's still very big. In fact, if you want, I'll get that one out. It still has some heft to it because it is definitely cast iron. So there's no denying that. But it is also, I mean, considering its size, and yeah, let me show you the fancy handle too. There you are. Considering its size, this may very well be probably the thinnest and lightest cast iron skillet that I have in this size here. So yeah, I mean, if I compare this to the Finex, for instance, I would say this is easily maybe one half of the weight of the Finex, maybe even less. So yeah, yeah, this was yet another Brimfield score. Boy, I think maybe at least a quarter of my collection might have come from Brimfield. Okay, eventually I chose a Griswold for the steak. Sorry about the commercials. The commercials were forced on me by YouTube in that I do not have the option to turn off commercials on these live videos, and I can only apologize for that. Okay, Sportsman Pro cast iron grill. I have it, but not used it much. I do not have one of those. I have heard some good things about the Sportsman Pro cast iron grill. Lodge redesigned it, and they did definitely put a few things in it that are an improvement over the original Sportsman grill. Not the least of which is apparently the whole grill is only like 3 pieces. It has one disadvantage in that it does wobble on uneven surfaces, and you do have to prop it up. But other than that, apparently it's a really, really good cast iron grill. Huggy Bear, my kitchen is too small. I have no place to put more pans. Yeah, that's the problem that all of us have. That's one reason why I have all of these out here in my living room. Lodge makes tall stands to store pans with little floor storage space. Thanks also to cast iron with honey badger. All right, that's my favorite pan. Which one's your favorite pan? Do you mean the fancy handled one? Oh yeah. Eventually Griswold. Okay, I'm assuming you mean the fancy handled pan. Well, oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you like it too. I definitely. All of these pans I have here in my collection, they all do have some special meaning to me, and I do like that. Maybe that's one reason why I'm not a seller. In that, um, well, yeah, as you know, some of those sellers with collections of like 1,000 or 2,000 pans. Obviously, they're trying to get rid of as many as they can. On the other hand, just about all of these pans here have sentimental value to me. So, for one reason or another, there might be a few I might end up might part with if the opportunity arises. But in general, I like to think I'm going to be having most of the pans in my collection for the rest of my life. The new Sportsman grills don't have side stops on the grill and stuff can roll off. Well, okay, then there's a disadvantage for you then. I think I should look online, or maybe you should make a video, in fact, with a decent review of the Sportsman Pro grill, pros and cons. If you stack them, throw a paper plate between them so they don't beat each other up. Yes, there is that. All my pans are sentimental just because they're mine. Paper plates between each other is a cheap way to protect them. And of course, even at Dollar Tree, sometimes I've seen these little star-shaped foam things that are meant especially to store, to stack your pans up. It's amazing how well a cast iron skillet cooks pizza. I make sourdough pizza weekly using a 12-inch skillet. Oh, absolutely. Even though I do have the large pizza pan, I really have not used it that much. That might very well be one that I end up getting rid of in some way or another. Mostly what I use it for is to help heat up other pans. Besides, as folks know, I have good old Stumpy, my BSR 14 pan, which is really the world's greatest pizza pan. The only real advantage of the large pizza pan is the fact that especially the new design, is that it is completely flat and it does not have an edge or a rim, I should say. And that makes it easier to slide a pizza peel onto it. So there is that. Hog Wild. I have the old Sportsman Grill Pro and a Kickoff Grill. We'll be doing a comparison and cook video of all three. Well, that would be interesting. I have heard good word, though, about the Kickoff Grill. Funny thing is, there is one cast iron channel that I'm betting some folks know about, the Backwoods Gourmet. And they got themselves, from Lodge, no less, a sample of the, what do they call it? The Lodge the Cook It All grill that Lodge, I'm not sure if they're even still producing it, but they premiered the Cook It All a few years ago. And they were so disappointed with the Cook It All grill that they used it as a boat anchor and literally threw it off the boat. So, all right. Well, nobody's perfect, and that includes large cast iron. Okay, I say the cardboard and the papers that come with Lodge as separators. Well, that's a good thing too. Don't overlook the older Guardian aluminum 15-inch pans for pizza. Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely not. And then, of course, there are the aluminum sheet pans, which, of course, everybody remembers the old school pizza. The cheap, chewy pizza that we got for every week in grade school and high school and the like, which they always cooked in those big aluminum sheet pans. Yet another thing I want to make when I get the chance. All right, I have the cook it all and it is still in the box. Well, have a giveaway, Corey Clark. Love the backwoods gourmet. Remind me of my country relatives. School pizza every Friday. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Greg Hart. Friday was pizza day. That's when we got just that piece of pizza. And oh man, yeah, we all remember school lunches. I came from a poor family as we grew up. We did not have a lot of money, and that means we went for the school lunch program. And I always liked it as much as you could like school meals. um, and when high school came around, the high school had this actually had their the high school that I went to. They actually had two separate lines. One line was the school lunch line, where of course you got the usual school lunch. The other line, every single day, they served burgers and pizza every single day, and you can guess which of those two lines always had the line right out the door. It was always the school. It was always the the burgers and the school pizza. The thing is, though, because I was on the free lunch program, where I forget what we did. Did they give us a token or something like that? I think it was like that. Um, you could not use your free lunch for the burgers and the pizza. You had to pay for it. You could only use your free lunch on the school lunch. So almost every time I had the school lunch. That's just how it goes. But hey, I'm not dead. All right. Our school had very good food, old school cooks. Yeah, that's how our high school was also. Yeah. Okay, I have a kickoff new in the box. Boy, you got quite a collection there, Corey. Remember those Chef Boyardee pizza kits? Oh, yes. Yeah. I do not have very good memories of those. We had a lunch card they punched holes in, but we could get in the burger line. Well, there you go. Well, and you were definitely one up on me, that's for sure. Our cooks were overall great. Yeah, as best as they could be. I mean, obviously they were on time constraints and low budgets, and but that's how it went. All right. Anyway, let's see what else we have here. We have a place called Southeastern Meats, and they sell the school pizza. It's exactly the same. Oh, it's almost tempting. Yeah, there's this. They do sell the square pizza at Walmart. What do they call it? Like Elio's or something like that. It's similar to the school pizza, but I don't think it's quite the same. All right, Kickoff Grill. Cook It All was still in the Lodge store last year. Well, that is true. Of course, they could be selling off excess inventory. Well, maybe I shouldn't really bash the Cook It All that much because I'm basing it all on one review from the Backwoods Gourmet. I don't have one, so I really have not been able to experience it myself. All right. Yeah, we love Jiffy Pop popcorn. After 30 years of collecting, I have about 1,000 pieces. Yeah, I know that feeling. Has Max from Tasting History done an episode with your cast iron pan yet? I'm sorry to say he has not. I gave it to him and I have not seen a single mention of it. So it's likely he probably just has it on display or in storage or something. So well, what can you do? I mean, after all, it's his cast iron and he can do what he wants with it. Or maybe he uses it personally. Maybe he just doesn't use it in his videos. Maybe he just uses it personally. Because it does seem like he has indeed acquired himself a collection of vintage cookware, that's for sure. Um, You may have seen, like, what was it, last week or something? He did a not medieval, a Victorian era hot chocolate video, and that's when he actually pulled out a kettle from the 1700s for it. So who knows? All right. Oh yeah. Oh, hello, Mudbrooker. Yeah. Hey, how's your cat doing? Okay. You stated cleaning a cast iron pan with a wire brush was a no-no. Repairable? Well, first of all, it can damage the seasoning. I'm not so sure if a wire brush can actually damage the cast iron, but I know it can be indeed tough enough that it would damage the seasoning. That's probably one reason why. Also, I have seen examples. I have not done this myself, but using a copper brush or a copper scouring pad will actually get copper residue right into the surface of your cast iron pan, and apparently it is extremely difficult and maybe not maybe next to impossible to bring out. So but yeah, oh, the wretched little beast as well. Well, I'm glad to hear that. In the early 80s, we got a salad bar. Eventually pita bread was added back when pita pocket was a thing. But yeah, that's the reason why I avoid wire brushes. As I said, I know from experience that they can at least scratch the seasoning on your pan. All right, which I suppose is not so bad if you're actually restoring a cast iron pan. You know, the one that comes right out of the lye tank. If you use a side grinder with a wire brush, it can damage the iron if you're restoring the cast iron. There is that exactly, Hog Wild. Yes. I have seen examples of pans that have been severely scratched by by grinders, and I'm sure quite a few of you folks have seen them too. And yet, we never mind. I'm not going to get into it. I've already got into one controversy already tonight. I'm not going to get any more into the people who say how great it is to grind down their cast iron pans and use the wire brush and everything like that. So, hmm. Tasting History is one of the most interesting YouTube channels. Yeah, I know. That guy is really down home, that's for sure. And yet his videos look so professional. I am jealous of that. What dishes has your girlfriend been cooking in the cast iron pan you gave her? Well, she is from Jamaica. So that means we've been seeing a lot of things like she does huge pots of rice every weekend. She has a set of those aluminum calderos I don't know what the plural of caldero is. She has a set of three of them that she's had for years and years, and they're seasoned so well that they've turned black. Even though you don't have to season aluminum, these ones definitely have built up a crust of seasoning. But she uses them every day, and all the time. And as I said, makes big pots of rice, and usually does a lot of chicken, and yeah, those are two of probably the things she does most of all. She's also a real fan of fried seafood. I really do need to get her into my kitchen and make a video of doing some of her fried stuff, like the fried chicken or fried shrimp, for instance. Scotch Brite pans are all that's needed if you think an abrasive pan is needed. Most of the time, yes, and I certainly agree with that. Um, I have a chainmail scrubber, and yet again, I can't believe how many things in my collection I'm actually saying are starting to celebrate their 10th anniversary, because last just this past Christmas was the 10th anniversary of my chainmail scrubber, which I got back in 2013, and well, largely because I've done my best to keep it in good condition. It still looks as good as the day it still looks brand new. A chainmail scrubber is really great for cleaning my cast iron, and most of the time, that's all I need. Just use the chainmail scrubber under hot water. Although, if I'm cooking something, if I make something especially greasy, then yes, I do indeed put a little dab of dish soap in to help get off the grease. So, The stupid part is it's a lot more work to strip a pan with a wire wheel or a grinder than it is to throw it in a lye bath. Well, there is that. Yes, I love my lye bath for precisely that reason. I use the stainless toothbrushes to clean cast outside. Every once in a while, a piece will fall off, get stuck in my crock, and it hurts like crazy. Oh, ouch, because it's like a hook pulling shoe. Croc, meaning your shoes, I guess. Right. De Beaumont's question. Let me move back up for that one. I think I may have overlooked that. De Beaumont resident, has the composition of cast iron changed over the years? Older pan quality versus today's? Um, I'm not enough of an expert at metallurgy to confirm this, but I would have to say almost certainly yes. Simply because modern day production techniques are so much more sophisticated. They use all kinds of really fancy electronic and scientific and computerized equipment in cast iron production these days, and that would certainly include even things like distilling the ore. So, if anything, I would say modern day cast iron is probably more pure than it was back in the old days. And I suspect some people may disagree with that. Maybe it's because of the love of vintage cast iron, which is why they say, the iron was better back in the old days. Today's iron just isn't what it used to be. And that is again another subject for argument. So who knows? Because it's certainly true that modern day cast iron will certainly last for centuries as well, as long as it's taken care of. But I would have to say, really, more because of technology than anything else, that there is a difference between vintage cast iron and modern day cast iron. Whether or not that's a good thing, well, of course, that's a subject for debate. One subject that I think I will come up with that I will mention is the copper look when you first season a brand new cast iron pan. When your cast iron pan looks brown or copper or gold colored rather than having that black color that you get with a well seasoned pan. Now, I have seen a couple of people say that's because of the modern day cast iron, and that's actually not true. I have seasoned I gate mark cast iron pans, and they stand. In some instances, I have indeed seen that bronze look when I was finished seasoning them. And I'm talking about seasoning them like anywhere from 3 to 5 times or so, not just once. I've seen it on modern day lodge, and I've seen it on older pans. So it's not the composition of the iron that does that. There are other factors involved, probably including what I'm using to season them with. In my case, I mostly use Crisco. But and I know I'm not the only one in that you never know when, if you restored a cast iron pan, when it's going to get the bronze look or whether it's going to come out nice and black. However, the bronze look is nothing to worry about because if you just cook with that a few times, maybe even only 2 or 3 times, you will see the black color come out on that cast iron pan. So it's there, but it doesn't seem to do anything. And I would not say that a pan is ruined if you season it and it has the bronze look. Check your cast iron once in a while as they will need to be updated with seasoning. That's certainly true, Fuzzfork. The auto industry has a big influence on cast iron too. You need a bit different iron for engine blocks to last any length of time. Once engine blocks enter the recycling chain, the iron change. Yeah, that's certainly true as well. I don't deny that. Recycling of things such as engine blocks is one of those bit items of controversy. I've seen accusations that large cast iron doesn't do that, when in fact they do. And of course, that comes into the accusations of Asian cast iron having toxic chemicals in the iron and all that, which is also not true. Largely because the manufacturing process, the iron smelting, I guess, using blast furnaces and all that. The process right there takes out a great deal of the impurities in the iron. And so I'm not worried in that respect about engine blocks being used in the production of cast iron. You're probably right in that it may very well, excuse me, have changed the iron, but I really would not say that modern iron is worse than vintage iron. I want a skillet made from the HI-80 steel that the submarine I was on made of. I would say the old mine's iron ore was purer than recycled iron of today. Borrow furnace and other foundries use a lot of old brake rotors, etc., in the pan. Well, there are cost reasons, of course. It's obviously it's cheaper to use recycled iron rather than to mine it yourself. So that's certainly a very big reason for it right there. And then that's where again you can think of BSNR and the Red Mountain, the Red Mountain area, in that they were fortunate in that they were pretty much sitting right on top of one of the richest iron ore deposits in, well, if not in the country, but at least in their area. So yeah, BSNR in their vintage days, they definitely had a good opportunity to put a lot of, as you call it, that pure iron in their pans. Does the engine block recycle make a safer pan? Um, Again, I am not an expert at metallurgy, but as I said, the modern day manufacturing process is really, really sophisticated, and I feel like I could safely state that that in itself would remove anywhere from like 99.5% or higher of impurities from any particular uh, hunk of cast iron when it's recycled. If folks want to disagree with me, please do so. Modern metallurgy does reduce the risk of stress cracking during heat cycles. They were recycling iron back then too. Oh, I don't doubt that because for again cost reasons. Especially in those days, when you could buy piles and piles of scrap iron for a few pennies. So yeah, oh yeah, and besides, don't forget as well the iron drives of World War II and World War One. The ones where many cast iron pans were lost. But it was for the war effort. So um, it really took me a while to realize that it was really the scrap iron drives and the Great Depression. Both of those contributed to why some vintage pans are very rare today. And I'm not just talking about the Erie Spider. I'm talking about things like the Lodge single notch skillet, which is common enough that you can still find one, but it's nowhere near as common as the three-notch lodges that they started producing after World War II. So many of those you can bet were lost in the recycling drives. And maybe that might even be why figure Griswold and Wagner, they were considered to be elite cookware. And I'm thinking it was less likely a family would want to throw out their fancy cast iron pan, the one that they got for a wedding gift or that they paid money for. So they would probably end up keeping the Griswold and the Wagner, whereas throwing that other old cast iron pan, the gate marked one or the Lodge or the BSR, and they had no idea where it came from. It was just a frying pan. Those would likely be the ones that they sent off to the scrap drives, which again, so it goes. I think iron has to be heated so high to melt and impurities slag gets cooked out. Well, yeah, that is true. And that's been true for centuries, at least since the development of the blast furnace, which was one of the things that really touched off the Industrial Revolution. So yeah, we are talking a few centuries. Before they managed to do things like blast furnaces, they had to forge iron, which was a much more laborious process, and it produced lower quality iron, I guess. So yeah, the blast furnace was a huge step forward for that. Um, Do you use your fish pan much? I don't use my fish pan much, unfortunately. I am not as much of a cornbread baker as some folks are. There are some folks here I know on these groups who cook cornbread every day, and they have cornbread with everything. Oh, we're having pizza tonight. Let's have some cornbread to go with that. So I'm not one of those persons. I love cornbread. I make cornbread regularly, but even so, I haven't used the fish pan much. The thing is, the fish pan, might as well get it out again. Ah, Fish pan was sort of sentimental in that several years ago, I keep saying several years ago, one of the big collectors in the cast iron community passed away, and I don't even remember his name, unfortunately. But it was brought to my attention that they were auctioning off his cast iron collection, which of course had some amazing pieces in it. Pretty much you named it, and he had it. Bunt pans, the handy Dan cornstick pan, Griswold, Wagner, etc., etc., etc. And looking that over, I remember when I had the offer to bid on something in that collection, I decided to go for something more unusual, something that would be less likely to get into a bidding war. And so I chose this. And I won. And so as a result, I ended up owning these large salmon pan. So I guess there is indeed some sentimental value for me for even for this pan. Unfortunately, I have not used it as much as I probably should, regrettably. uh, yeah, it can be difficult rotating through my collection too, that's for sure. All right, a lot of cast iron pans were sacrificed with a war effort and became Cadillac tanks. Yes, indeed. Now, the war effort was a good thing too. So it's not like, so even though as collectors we do regret all of the cast iron that was lost in the war effort, I mean, you could certainly say it was for a good cause. The Vikings used fire soil to extract iron for swords and shields. They didn't have mines. Oh, I don't doubt that. I recently acquired a single notch number 8 that I believe belonged to my grandmother. She was born in 1917. Well, congratulations, Jeremy Robertson. In that case, well, if I mean simply the fact that it was your grandmother's pen, that alone makes it an heirloom, and I would certainly want to hold on to that pen, even if it turned out to be Asian made. Um, of course, not just you, but for a lot of people who acquired this old pan from my grandma, your grandma could have acquired that pan at any time in her life. I mean, she could have received it as a wedding present, she could have inherited it from her parents, or maybe during the 1960s or 1970s, maybe she was at Woolworths or something and bought her a cast iron pan then too. So who knows? The earliest known use of cast iron, the Han Dynasty in China around 220 AD. Yeah, I kind of remember that. I think that's mentioned in the Wikipedia article on cast iron. They're as high as Georgia pine now, the salmon pan. Well, in that case, I'm very happy to own the salmon pan. I can only attribute to luck. I cannot really claim any credit other than luck. Uh, with the fact being that I do indeed have a few unusual pieces of cast iron in my collection, and I'm quite proud about that. I may not have, like, say, the Erie Spider or the Wapak Indian head yet, but I am lucky enough, just because of circumstance, and that's really all I can say, to own things like the salmon pan or the Solid Technics big skillet. That big, huge circular skillet that I use, especially for things like pizza and ratatouille and the like. Or for that matter, thanks to Louis J, one of the last butter pat skillets, which again, Louis J sent that to me, and I certainly will have a sentimental value for that, especially since the butter pat name has since been discontinued. It is now the Yeti cast iron skillet. so it, I was I've been lucky, and that's about all I can say. And quite frankly, a lot of you folks If you just have some patience, you'll get lucky too. Yes, you can take any meaning you want in that. um, I believe it was Cynthia Wesley, in fact, who made a really great score within like the last month or so. And that's all, yeah, because you know, we do hear all of us. We all hear from people who say, there is no good cast iron in my place at all. I go hunting all the time and I never find anything good. And that's the case until you do. And it's always when you never expect it. It's always when you never expect it. It's like suddenly you come across something and your jaw drops and your heart beats fast. And oh my God, I found one of these. I can definitely think about that the time again at Brimfield when I found my cast, my when I found that vintage cake pan, for instance. I mean, that, or for that matter, my BSR Red Mountain deep fryer. I mean, believe you me, there's no way I would have ever expected I would end up owning something like that. And yeah, I'm quite glad to have acquired it. Pure iron is very ductile. Yeah, yes. Uh, Ever since I got interested in cast iron, I want to go throughout old houses out in the country to look for skillets. Is there a cure? No, there is no cure. I mean, if you're looking for a cure for cast ironitis, you have come to the wrong channel, buddy. All right. I used to never see BSR here in Ohio. This year I find all the time. Yeah, so you never know. When you're not looking for it, you find it. I was blessed with a handy Dan cornstick pan. Congratulations, Rick Stumbo. It's irreplaceable as it was given to me by a very dear friend. Again, congratulations. And I hope you use it regularly. The big roaster you found tucked away in a corner. Yes, exactly, Cynthia Wesley. Oh, yeah, I guess you remember that video then. Question: is there a surefire way to know if there's a crack in cast iron still covered by the seasoning? I know people talk about the ding test, that if you take the pan and you ding it against a surface, supposedly you can hear it when it's cracked. I disagree with that, largely because a lot of cracked pans, the crack is really no more than a hairline crack. I mean, if you've got a seriously cracked and broken pan, then that ding test might work. But I really would not be able to give any way to say it's cracked, other than, well, let me think about this. Let me bring out a pan again. I don't have any crack pans on me right now. But when I find an interesting looking pan in the vintage treasure hunt, like at a flea market or at a antique mall or something like that, I of course, well, obviously, I want to look it over for cracks. One thing that I will do is closely examine the rim, especially right around the handle. It seems like a lot of cracks seem to show up around the handle, and often, often, if there is a crack, you will be able to notice it in the rim here, along the rim. Unless, of course, it's really, really covered up by seasoning, then who knows? However, that's what I usually do. I look all around the rim for any sign of cracks. That place in particular, um, as far as looking to see whether or not a pen is actually worth it. All right. Have you ever come across one of those gate marked skillets that was exceptionally heavy? Are all the ones you've ever seen lighter? Well, all the ones I've seen have indeed been lighter. No, let me correct that. Most of the ones I've seen have been lighter. Um, Let me see. Exceptions to that. Um, oh God, there was this antique store in Sweetwater, Tennessee, that had one of an incredibly heavy cast iron skillet, and now I can't even remember the brand name of it. Ugh. was like at least 10 years ago. Here I go again, 10 years. So I don't remember it off the top of my head. But that one was really, really, really thick and heavy. One that I do remember is the infamous number 16 size cast iron skillet. The what they used to call the prison skillet up until only like maybe the last couple of years or so. That one actually comes from what is it like Tennessee Foundry or Southern Castings or something like that. You know, the one that I like to call it the spinal tap skillet because just like it goes up to 11, this one goes up to 16. I came across one of those at an antique mall in Virginia on one of my road trips down south. And I was lucky, and because of that, I was able to actually hold it in my hands. That thing is a monster. That thing has to weigh at least 30 pounds. That was an incredibly heavy cast iron skillet. Oh, and it had like about a $250 price tag on it too. That's why I didn't get it. So yes, I have seen some heavy gate mark pans. Most of the gate mark pans I found have indeed been very light and thin. Even this Dutch oven that was made in Maine that I found again several years ago. So yes, usually I found gate marks to be light. Well, actually, here's another exception of a heavy gate mark pan. My cauldron, the savory 15-gallon cauldron here, which I've shown off a couple of times. It's definitely gate marked, and that thing there weighs 75 pounds empty. So, yeah, that is definitely not light. That's for sure. All right. I've been so fortunate when shopping thrifts, they let me walk in the sun outside to examine my iron. Well, congratulations to you for that. All right. I see too many cast iron skillets, so the only thing that's going to get me excited is some big, huge cast iron cauldron. And if I ever find one, I'm going to celebrate by making 50 pounds of schmaltz. Yeah. Well, good luck, Ken. The best of luck to you, VL Triple X. Because yeah, I know that feeling all too well. Most of those huge cauldrons they have out there, there are two things that keep us from buying them. Number one, the price. Usually they put incredible price tags on those things. $500, $1,000, $1,500. So thanks, but no thanks. The other, of course, is that quite a few of those cast iron cauldrons are damaged. They are indeed cracked or just broken open, or especially they have holes drilled into them. Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen one of those like that. But you never know. I mean, if you're lucky, one of these days you will stumble across, when you do not expect it, an actual cauldron at a price that you can afford. When I found that one at Brimfield, it had a $200 price tag. And I was standing there and pacing back and forth for 15 minutes debating whether or not it would be worth it. And I eventually came to the conclusion that, if I don't get this, I'm going to be kicking myself for the rest of my life. And that's why I invested $200 for my savory cast iron cauldron. And yeah, you better believe I am not regretting the investment. All right. Are you going to the Cornbread Festival this year? Yes, I am planning to go. Um, Assuming the circumstances turn out okay, I will indeed go to the Cornbread Festival. Looking forward to it. The Cornbread Festival, the thing is that why would someone like me do a round trip of at least 1,500 miles just to go to a street festival like the National Cornbread Festival? Well, my reasoning is actually this. I'm not just going there for the Cornbread Festival. I'm actually using this as an excuse to go on a road trip and go explore and see what I can see. Oh, and go to the National Cornbread Festival, which is a lot of fun. So that's my reasoning for going all the way from the northeastern United States down to Tennessee and back for the National Cornbread Festival. And I have a lot of fun when I do that, not just at the festival, but all along the way. So, all right, most cauldrons and big pots have been drilled to be used as plant pots. Yeah, unfortunately, VL Triple X, you're probably right there. The cauldron is a good investment if you're going to use it, and I have used it. I used it as recently as last summer when I took it to a rock festival being thrown by a band that I'm friends with. I cooked jambalaya in that one for about 50 people or so. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. Ricky, I was saying there, man, debunk BSR by having hammered iron and about your lid. I sure been keeping an eye out for you at bottom. He got it all. Yeah, exactly. Well, again, BSR hammered cast iron is as rare as hen's teeth. It's yet another of those things I don't think I will ever see in my life, though you never know. But I will. I've only seen photos of it on the BSR group on Facebook, and if I had not seen those photos, I would not have believed it either. $100 skillets today on resale channels is the new normal. Unfortunately, it sure seems to be, doesn't it, Fuzz4? It's like people seem to think cast iron is made of gold or something. Or I've already said this before. I mean, I am personally of the belief that antique vendors go by three rules. Old is good, big is good, old and big are better. So yeah, that's why now it's like you come across they don't even know what it is, but they give it like a $40, $50 price just because it's an old cast iron pan. Oh, anyway, I live in Connecticut. In Connecticut, Griswold is gold, just like gold prices have skyrocketed since 2022. Yeah, just about everything has. And unfortunately, it looks like they're only going to keep going up. But other than that, I could use a cauldron every day. I'd sell schmaltz. Well, then definitely, I can only hope that you're successful in your hunt. But yeah, again, all you can do is just keep an eye out for it. And if it happens or when it happens, it will happen at a time when you don't expect it. Maybe you'll get it on Facebook Marketplace, maybe on eBay. Who knows? Well, I've still managed to find a few rare bargains on cast iron on eBay, even as recently as last year. It was last year that I acquired my handwritten BSR number 8 Dutch oven, for instance, which, by the way, has an incredibly glass smooth surface. They must have ground down or polished the surface of that particular BSR Dutch oven because that is easily as smooth as my Griswold Dutch oven. Is there a reliable price guide on the internet? I do not know. What I would typically do in regards of a guide is I would look for that particular pan on eBay and then divide the eBay price by about 1/3. And I'm being serious. And I might consider that to be a fair price. But that's because I'm a cheapskate. Cornbread Fest is like a foodie trick or treat. It's come home with a bag full of samples of flour. Yeah, yeah. The National Cornbread Festival essentially it's a huge street festival. Everybody's town has one of those kind of festivals where for that particular weekend they just cordon off the entire downtown area and they invite just about every food vendor and in the county and all that to come there and they have arts and crafts and they have a carny set up too those traveling carnival places things with the Ferris wheel and all of those carny games and all that. Yeah, they set all that up at the National Cornbread Festival, although of course because this is the home of Lodge Cast Iron, then Lodge goes all out and does a whole lot more too. They have the National Cornbread Cook-Off, a contest where you can win like about $5,000 worth of cooking gear, things like a new oven and other stuff like that. And there are, of course, a lot of vendors there making and selling cornbread. They even have this place they call Cornbread Alley, which is where you pay a price and then you just walk down and you get samples of like about 10 different kinds of cornbread. So, yeah. All right. I didn't even know BSR hammered existed. It exists, Louis J, but it is literally as rare as hen's teeth. Might be as rare, if not more rare, than the Erie spider skillet. Look on the Lodge BSR group on Facebook, and if you search for it, you will find it. Should have been renamed Ugly instead of the Ugly we know. Maybe Rick D will send you a picture of it. Ugly, yeah. All right. More cast iron cooking. Well, excuse me. Is corned beef on the menu for St. Patrick's Day this year? Hell yes. In fact, it is indeed about time to do it. I'm already thinking that next week, I hope I'm not too late. In fact, next week is the 12th. That's maybe a lot later than I expected. Maybe I should have done the corned beef tonight, in fact. Or actually, maybe I'll make it a weekend project. But either way, the point is that yes, I love making homemade corned beef and I love eating homemade corned beef simply because it is so much better than store-bought corned beef. Now, store-bought corned beef is good. Yes. I mean, definitely, if you get your corned beef at the store, great. In which case, then, what you want to do is spice up your corned beef yourself. Don't rely on that little microscopic spice packet that comes with the corned beef. Use your own spices and slow cook it in cast iron, and you will have a corned beef to die for. Drinking moonshine will make you that hammered. Look, Badger. Yeah. Brisket is good no matter how it's made. There is that too, Brody. YYC. I will also agree there. I got homemade moonshine at the Cornbread Fest. Some guy was selling it out of his trunk in the parking lot. Well, that's something. Wow. Haven't been able to score that yet. Time for jambalaya. Oh yeah, they have jambalaya at the Cornbread Festival too. And sometimes at the Cornbread Festival, some cooking, I don't know if you call them celebrities, show up. I have not seen any of the celebrity chefs at the Cornbread Festival. On the other hand, quite a few YouTube names have been showing up at the Cornbread Festival. So there's yet another reason to go there, so that you can meet people and say hi. Put potassium salt in everything. Pastrami and corned beef come from the same cut of beef, the brisket. Okay, we are indeed getting to that time. Corned beef rounds are better than corned beef briskets. Fight me. Hey, I'm not going to fight you on that. I mean, definitely make what you want. If you don't like corned beef, you don't have to have corned beef. Make what you want. But as I said, I do believe we are getting onto that time. Wow, I've been talking for an hour and a half here. Easter prime rib roast. Nice. Everybody remember that now is when they go on sale. There is that exactly too, VL XXX. And please look up some tips on making a good prime rib roast. That's another thing I will say, and I'm probably in the minority for this. Use a thermometer when you cook your prime rib roast. Do not rely on that popular method for prime rib. You know the one. Cook it for like 5 minutes a pound at 500 degrees. Then turn off the oven and walk away for 2 hours. Don't open the oven for anything, and you will have a perfect corned beef. No, you will have a perfect prime rib roast then. The thing is, if you do not have a good oven, then you're going to end up with an undercooked prime rib roast. If you've got yourself a good oven, that method works. But if you don't have a good oven, that's not going to work. And considering how much you're going to pay for your prime rib roast, I, for one, would not want to leave it to chance. So please, please, just like with your Thanksgiving turkey, get a thermometer and use a cooking thermometer on your prime rib roast. Oh, one other thing, it'll cook faster too. The last time I cooked a prime rib roast a few years ago, I had it to the right temperature in maybe an hour and a half, and it turned out great. It was medium rare, and there was no problem with that. So yeah, there's another reason. Use a thermometer and cook your prime rib to the right temperature. All right. Anyway, like I said, I do believe again we are indeed getting on to that time there. So I can definitely say as well that, boy, these time passes here. As I said, I've been talking on and on and on for an hour and a half, and I can't believe how fast the time passes. But that's largely because I love these conversations with you folks here. Having you folks here on this live chat on these live chats are really what makes this so much fun, and this is why I enjoy doing it. I started this channel really for the cooking, and I have a lot of fun cooking and making these videos. But really, having you folks here definitely makes this something fun, and that's why I've been doing these now for 4.5 years. And I certainly don't want to stop it anytime soon. Thanks to all of you. So thank you. Thank you to everybody, as always, who has been kind enough to show up here tonight. Jamie Ledgerwood and Mark Sieber and William Hurt. Valley S., thank you for the questions tonight. Bob the Builder and Cynthia Wesley and De Beaumont Resident. My birthday's coming up. If you want to get me something, please send me cast iron. And Kevin Brown and Greg Hart and Honey Badger and Fuzzfork 8 and so many others. Yes, indeed. Thank you, everybody, for showing up here tonight. I do hope I've done my best to keep you entertained because, well, we can always go on and do it all again next week. And I do believe Honey Badger does his regular cast iron video on Thursdays as well, so that's something to look forward to. And of course, we've got the weekend coming up where, yet again, now is the time to start making your homemade corned beef. Also, corned beef is starting to go on sale too. So if you want to just simply buy it, go ahead and buy it. But please spice up your corned beef and have fun doing it. That's really the most important thing. Have fun. No matter what, whether you're collecting cast iron or cooking in cast iron or preparing for St. Patrick's Day or Easter, have fun. And be safe, folks. Things are not doing very well here for a lot of people. So please be careful. Thank you so much as well, Kathleen Tripp. Yes, and thank you. And well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And Huggy Bear and the Mudbrooker and Brody YYC. Yeah, time flies when we're having fun. You're exactly right, Radagast. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to Fuzzfork, and again, thank you to all of you folks. Thank you for spending your time this evening, and we will just all wrap this up, and we'll be off for another week. So once again, it's just time to give my goodbye greeting or my goodbye with my favorite quote from 2001: A Space Odyssey. See you next Wednesday.